All right, today we are going on a tour of one of the most incredible, most vital structures in the universe. We're talking about a hidden factory that is running at full tilt inside you right now.
So, let me ask you a question. What do you think is the busiest factory in your entire body? You might think it's your heart, right? Or maybe your brain? Well, the truth is, it's not a single organ at all.
The answer is actually a microscopic network, a massive, sprawling factory floor that exists inside almost every single one of your cells. I mean, we are talking about machinery on a scale that is just mind-bogglingly small and unbelievably complex.
And this incredible cellular factory? It has a name, the Endoplasmic Reticulum, or just the ER for short. So for the next few minutes, let's take a tour of this amazing piece of biological engineering.
Now, the name itself sounds kind of complicated, but it actually gives us the perfect blueprint. Endo is Greek for within, plasmic refers to the cytoplasm, the jelly-like stuff in a cell, and reticulum just means network. Put it all together, and what do you get? A network within the cytoplasm. It's literally describing itself. How cool is that?
And when I say network, I mean huge. To give you some perspective, the ER can make up more than half of the entire membrane space in a single cell. That's like a single factory taking up more than half an entire city. That's the kind of real estate we're talking about here.
Okay, so let's throw on our hard hats and step onto the factory floor. What does this place even look like? How is it built?
Well, think of this as the factory blueprint. The whole ER is just one single continuous membrane. And get this, it's directly connected to the nucleus, which is basically the cell's head office. It's not just a big blob either. It folds into these amazing shapes. You've got these flattened sacs called cisternae and all these winding tubes. The space on the inside, that's called the lumen, and that's where the magic happens. And the coolest part? It's not static. It's a totally flexible warehouse that can grow or shrink depending on what the cell needs at any given moment.
Now, like any well-run factory, the ER has different departments for different jobs. It's organized into two main production divisions. You've got the rough ER and the smooth ER.
And the difference between them is pretty straightforward. Think of the rough ER as the main assembly line. It's called rough because it's literally covered in little bumps. Those bumps are ribosomes, the tiny machines that build proteins. Then you've got the smooth ER. This is more like the specialty workshop. No bumps, hence the name, and it handles a whole different set of jobs, like making fats and getting rid of toxins.
So, what are these two divisions actually doing all day? Let's start our tour of the ER's critical functions, beginning with that main assembly line.
The whole process is incredibly precise. Okay, so here's how it works. A ribosome on the rough ER starts building a protein. As it's being built, the new protein chain gets fed directly into the ER's inner space, the lumen. Once inside, special helper proteins, called chaperones, grab it and help fold it into its perfect final 3D shape. And finally, it gets tagged with some sugar molecules, which is basically like slapping a shipping label on a package before it goes out the door. And this brings us to something absolutely critical. The ER is also the factory's quality control department. See, if a protein gets folded incorrectly, it won't just not work, it could be actively dangerous for the cell. So the ER will either try to fix it, or if it can't be fixed, it'll be destroyed. This quality control is non-negotiable. It's absolutely vital.
All right, let's leave the hustle and bustle of the protein assembly line behind. It's time to head over to the other side of the factory and see what the specialists in the smooth ER are up to. And wow, what a workshop it is! The smooth ER is in charge of making all sorts of essential lipids, things like the fats and phospholipids that build our cell membranes, and even steroids like hormones. In your liver cells, this is the part of the factory that's working overtime to break down toxins from things like drugs and alcohol. And in your muscles, it's a calcium warehouse, storing and releasing calcium ions to trigger every single muscle contraction you make. A true jack of all trades.
So, you bring these two divisions together, the rough ER and the smooth ER, and what you have is the cell's main factory and its primary shipping hub. They produce the materials, they package them up in little transport bubbles called vesicles, and then they ship them off to the next stop in the line, the Golgi apparatus, which you can think of as the cell's post office.
I mean, this whole system is so elegant, so efficient. But it makes you wonder, right? What happens when this factory has a breakdown? What are the consequences when production goes wrong? Well, when the factory gets buried in work, when the demand for proteins is huge and the quality control system just can't keep up with all the mistakes, it leads to a state called ER stress. Think of it like a system-wide production crisis at the cellular level. The factory is just overwhelmed.
And the consequences of this kind of failure, they are incredibly serious. ER stress is now linked to some of our biggest diseases. With type 2 diabetes, for instance, the ER in your pancreatic cells just can't keep up with producing and folding insulin correctly. In diseases like Alzheimer's, it's connected to a buildup of these misfolded proteins in the brain. It just proves how fundamental a healthy, functioning ER really is for our overall health.
Which really leaves us with one last big question. We've seen how the ER is the cell's factory, just building what the blueprints from the nucleus, our DNA, tell it to. But if the ER is just the factory, what happens when the blueprints themselves are wrong from the start? That's a question that gets to the very heart of genetics and disease, and it all begins right here, inside the cell's hidden factory.